Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We're here for another Burnoutology. Burnoutology Live. At the moment, it's every Monday. And I've got my Burnoutology sweatshirt on. For today, should we move this down a little bit? I think the sweatshirt needs some love, right? So, hello, good morning. Welcome to this week's Burnoutology Live. I am Kelly Swingler. I'm the burnoutologist and creator of Burnoutology. And today, I need to make sure I keep getting this title right. Today, we are talking about the real reason that burnout happens and why it's not what you think. If you think you're here for a different live, let me know. That's the one that I've got in my notes, and that's the one that we are going with. I've had some lovely messages following these lives over the last couple of weeks, but let's dig into today. I'm going to see if I can keep these as short as possible. Like, it's important for me to be showing up and speaking to you all and getting your feedback. So if you are joining me live, say hi. Let me open the comments, actually. Say hi. Let me know where you are joining from. Let me know that you're there. Say good morning. Let me know how the start of your week is going. How has your Monday morning been so far? Let me know. So today we are, find the title again, the real reason that burnout happens and why it's not what you think. That's what we are talking about today. So let's start with this. Burnout doesn't come from hard work or long hours. Let's start with that, shall we? Burnout doesn't come from hard work or long hours. No. Been doing this now, been in this space for over a decade now. Can you believe that? Over a decade. So burnout doesn't come from hard work or long hours. And this for me is where I was about to go off on my rant. I'm going to stick to my notes this morning. But it comes from losing ourselves, right? So this is where I want us to start from. Burnout doesn't come from hard work or long hours. It comes from losing ourselves. So if you have been told, and many of you are being told, and many of you are seeing this all over your feeds, and many of you are seeing this with coaches and experts that are talking about all this stuff, that are giving you time management techniques and delegation techniques and telling you that you just need to take more breaks, set more boundaries, and that you just need to manage your time better. All right, so if you have been told that burnout is about workload or your inbox or the fact that you just need to switch off more often, then you've been sold a little bit. You've been sold a little bit for lying. I'm not going to say that these things don't matter. They do. Manageable workloads will matter to our overall well-being, our overall health, our overall stress levels. Taking breaks. I had a conversation with somebody a few weeks ago. She's like, I can't remember the last time that I took a break. And I keep commenting on, has anyone seen this one? There's a, what's the word? I was just going to say an image. It's a bit more than I was going to say. It's not an infographic. Don't think it's a meme either. So let's just stick with image. There's an image of a battery that's going around. So it's like green, amber, red. And so it's this battery that's been kind of color coded, the kind of traffic lights, right? Green, amber, red. And lots of people are saying, take your breaks here, and pointing to the amber section of the battery. Right, so I want you to imagine it. You've got green, amber, red. And lots of people are, as I say, kind of pointing to the middle of the battery and saying, take your breaks here, right, when you're in amber. I remember when I started in the world of work, I joined corporate in 98, started working part-time whilst I was at school, after school and at weekends in 1992. Do you know what we used to have? Lots of breaks. You were doing a full day, you'd have a break in the morning, you'd have a lunch break, you'd have a break in the afternoon. We didn't have to wait until we were in amber. We were taking regular breaks all of the time. And now it's as though, like, if we dare to say we're going to take 10 minutes, we're kind of seen that we are lazy, disengaged, not caring, slacking, all of that kind of stuff that just isn't helpful for anybody. So I do keep kind of arguing this point whenever I see the battery, right? Take the bloody breaks in the green. take regular breaks in the green. So guys, we're talking about this stuff today. I'm not saying that none of this stuff matters, because of course it does, for our overall well-being, for our overall stress levels, for our overall health and happiness. But that alone, hard work and long hours, are not going to cause burnout alone. Because if burnout were just about working hard, then everyone who works long hours and everyone that works hard would be at burnout. And they're not. We know they're not. We know the numbers are rising. We know some of the latest stats are telling us that almost 60% of the workforce is at burnout. We know some of the stats are telling us that over 70% of leaders are at burnout. That doesn't mean everybody is. And at the moment, I don't know anybody that's not working hard or that's not working long hours. And yet not everybody is at burnout. So let's start with this. I want to share with you my burnout equation, which is this. In fact, shall we put this as a little scrolling banner across the bottom for you all? Let me add it here for you, shall I? Here we go. Let me add this for you along the bottom before I introduce it. Here we go. The burnout equation should be scrolling across the bottom of your screen now. Look at me getting all jazzy this morning. But this is my burnout equation. This is what I have seen and discovered and shared. I share it in the Burnout Academy. I share it in the Burnout Aware Coach. I share it in the Master Burnout Coach. I share it in Burnout 101. In over a decade of doing this, this is what I know for sure. And that is this burnout equation. Toxicity minus our sense of self equals burnout. So this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. So in the title for today, let me recap with you again, make sure we're on the right line. The real reason that burnout happens, and it's not because of what you think, right? So I want us to think about, so it's not just about workload. It's not just about how much we're dealing with. I want us to come back to the burnout equation, which is scrolling across the bottom of your screens now. Toxicity minus a sense of self equals burnout. Now, when we say toxicity, this doesn't just have to be toxic workplaces, right? Toxic workplaces are still the number one cause of burnout globally. And we don't have to be employed. We don't have to be in the workplace in order to experience burnout. So when I say toxicity, yes, it can be toxic workplaces. It could be toxic leaders. It could be toxic colleagues. It could also be toxic relationships, toxic friendships, toxic thoughts, toxic habits, toxic patterns, toxic behaviors. But we think about all of that toxicity. What that causes us to do is to lose our sense of self. The more toxic the environment, the more it kind of starts to erode, the more it starts to, I talk a lot about this, don't I? But for many of us, right, we are square pegs in round holes. And what this toxicity does is it causes us to lose our corners. All of our corners begin to get chipped away, and we end up like a misshapen round peg in a kind of round hole, right? We kind of squeezed ourselves to fit in because we've lost all of our corners, and our corners really, for many of us, are our sense of self, our deep sense of self, our deep knowing and understanding, right? Who we are. And yet this toxicity causes us to lose a lot of that. If you are recognizing this in yourself or your clients, give me a wave, give me a hello, give me a good morning in the comments below. So this is what I want us to focus on today, right? And if you miss this burnout equation, if you miss the fact that toxicity minus sense of self equals burnout, if you miss that, you miss everything. So most of the world, most of the working world, most of the coaches that are now all of a sudden experts in burnout when they're not, but most of the world still thinks that burnout is about stress and workload. And of course, some of this comes from the World Health Organization definition, the definition that was produced and published in 2019. It tells us that burnout is as a result of unmanaged chronic workplace stress. It tells us that burnout is this workplace phenomenon. And yet if we only focus on that psychological definition, on the psychology definition, we're missing the whole other piece of the puzzle. We're missing everything else that burnout is. We're missing all of the other causes. We're missing everything that sticks by that. So many of us, much of the world still assumes that burnout is about stress and workload. This is why leaders, HR teams, even a lot of coaches are still focusing on the quick fixes that I mentioned a few moments ago, right? The fact that we need better boundaries, the fact that you need to take a break, the fact that you need to do some self-care. Let me ask you this. Why do so many people still end up in burnout even after taking a holiday? Even after they've done the journaling, even after they've done the yoga and the meditation or the daily gratitude practice, or they've cut down their hours. And it's because those fixes are surface level, right? They're not getting to the root of what burnout is and what is causing it. And the real heart of burnout isn't workload. It is this identity loss. And it's what happens when toxicity, as I said, in workplaces, cultures, relationships, thoughts, habits, patterns, behaviors. So when all of that toxicity strips away your sense of self, and what's left is burnout. I mentioned this, and you can't see it over my shoulder. This, which way is my camera going? This book here, Mind the Gap. Right, this really talks a lot about the gap, right? The whole point of that one was the gap between who we are, who we really are, and who the world has told us who we can be, or who we have been molded into when all of our corners have been cut away or pulled away. The gap between who we really are and who we're masking or showing up or pretending to be, the bigger the gap there is between our true self and who we're showing up as, the bigger the gap there is for burnout to fill. That's what I talk about a lot in, where is it again? That book there. That's what I talk about a lot in that book there. So let's come into a little bit more about the burnout equation, right? So this toxicity minus sense of self equals burnout. So toxicity can look like a workplace that like praises sacrifice, but it punishes honesty. Again, I've been there, I've lived it. Or it could look like a culture that rewards masking. Or it's a relationship or a team where you're not safe to be yourself. It's the social conditioning, the way in which we're all being trained and taught, that tells us that we should be grateful for exhaustion. I still remember, 2015 or 2016, I was part of a networking group. We were told we need to network if we want to grow our businesses. I was a couple of years into the business. Everything was going brilliantly, and I was going to this networking group, and I got talking to a coach that was there. I remember her coming to my house for a cuppa. We were working from home, so we were waiting for a new office to be opened. And I had the team. We were all kind of working from this beautiful long table. We were all working from this dining table in my house, and she came round to the office, and we sat talking about business growth and all sorts. And I had at the time been asked, actually not offered, well, offered and asked, but I'd been asked specifically to write the book, What's Your Excuse for Not Overcoming Stress? My friend Jo, sadly she's no longer with us anymore, but my friend Jo wrote the book on what is your excuse for not being better with money. And the publisher, the editor, was looking for somebody to talk about stress. And Jo, you need to speak to my friend Kelly. So I was asked to do this book. And I'm going off on a tangent as I do, but the reason that I was asked and then given the offer was because when it came to talking about stress, I was talking about the fact that actually we do need it, right? We don't want to be stress-free. The reason that I was selected for this book was because I spoke about the fact that actually we need stress. We need an element of stress in our lives. She's like, yes, you're the one, right? We don't need this kind of woolly, fluffy stuff that nobody really understands. So I was selected for this one. But I started talking to this coach, and she wasn't my coach. She was a coach that I had met at this networking event. But I do know that she was trying to pitch me, right? She wanted to be my coach. And this is why she completely turned me off in what she was saying. This comes back to the point that we were talking about a moment ago before I went off on my tangent about the fact that almost we need to be grateful for this exhaustion, right? If we're not working all of the hours, then clearly we're not going to be successful enough because clearly we don't care. And I told her about this book. Now, subsequently, she's gone on to write a book, and she popped up on my social feed a few months ago now. Been interviewed for a podcast, and I thought, oh, there you are. Because I haven't seen her on my feed for years, but seemingly she's back. And what she said to me was, when I told her about this book, was clearly your business is not successful enough, right? You're not growing enough. You're not doing enough. Got a sticker inside the sleeve of my jumper. Welcome to Alive with Kelly, where we just lose the plot completely. I'm not going to pretend it's not there. Got something on the inside sleeve of my jumper. It is going to irritate me, but I might have to leave it till later because otherwise I'm going to be sat here picking for about 10 minutes. I think we'll leave it till later. But she said to me, clearly the business isn't successful enough. Clearly you're not busy enough. You're not going to get to the point of success if you've got time to write a book. Right? If you've got time to write a book, you're not successful enough. What she couldn't seem to understand was that I'd been asked to write a book, and therefore my business, my work would get planned around me doing that. I'm finishing my master's at the moment before I go on to my PhD studies. I've had a call with my student success person this morning. What I missed, and it's drafted, it's all ready to go. But she said to me, "Oh, your draft essay plan's due in tomorrow." I've completely missed it because my focus has been on prepping for my operation in a couple of weeks. But I'm able to do my studies. I'm able to complete all of my studies and all of my learning and build the business around it. Not because my business isn't busy enough and I'm not successful, but because I'm able to prioritize the stuff that matters to me. But we have been taught and trained and conditioned, right? If we're not working 12 hours a day, 365 days, or sometimes 14 or 16 hours a day, 365 days a year, then clearly we're not going to be successful enough. We've been told that hustle and hard work, right, are what success looks like. We've been told that we've normalized exhaustion and tiredness and fatigue and being stressed, and we're kind of still out competing. We're competing with each other every week, aren't we? I said, let me know how your Monday's going. For some of us, and I guarantee you this is how the conversations will have gone for some of you already this morning, right? On your calls, where are we? We're 11:18 on Monday, what date are we? Monday the 22nd of September. 11:18. For any of you that have had calls or conversations or messages or emails or anybody with people this morning, it will have gone a little bit like, right? Hi, hi, how was your weekend? Not long enough. Oh my God, tell me about it. I've done all this stuff. Oh my God, yeah, me too. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And then when it kind of gets to tomorrow or Wednesday, we start having conversations like, hi, how's your week? Oh my God, I'm so busy. Oh my God, me too. You won't believe the stuff that I'm doing with. We've replaced the word busy with stressed, or we've replaced the word stressed with burnout. Oh my God, I'm so burnt out at the minute. Got all this stuff to do. Oh my God, yeah, me too. And we've normalized the fact that we're all exhausted, running on empty, don't have the resources, don't have the time, don't have the energy. And rather than actually listening to what people are saying, right, listening to these conversations that we're having, we go, oh my God, yeah, me too. Let me tell you how busy I am. Oh, well, let me one-up you, right? I'm doing everything that you're doing and then some. And we don't have to be getting ourselves to that point. I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday, at the minute, it's a lot. I'm 2 weeks out from my operation. At the same time, I've got builders in the house. We're having 2 bathrooms and a utility replaced. Everyone's like, why didn't you just wait? It's been ongoing for ages. It's as a result of a leak. I wouldn't be choosing to have this work done at this point when I should be prepping for my operation. And I'm doing my studying and I'm building a business. All the stuff. Sometimes, yes, it all happens at exactly the same time. This is not how I choose to do stuff anymore. Yes, I'm juggling the business and my studying, and I'm planning for that, right? As part of my weekly planning, my monthly planning, my quarterly planning. I know where my breaks are in between stuff. I know everything that I'm doing. My breaks are the first thing to go in. But we've got to stop competing with each other on busyness and stress and exhaustion, because that in itself is toxic. And then we lose our sense of self, because I think I've got to compete with you on all of this stuff. Well, let me tell you how busy I am. Oh my God, no, let me tell you how busy I am. No, let me tell you how busy I am. And then all of a sudden this busyness, this stress, this exhaustion, that becomes our identity. But actually our true sense of self, right, our true identity, our true sense of self are things like our values, our boundaries, our corners, our voice, the things that get us out of bed in the morning, the things that motivate us and drive us. Things that frustrate us when they're not present, but we're losing a lot of that sense of self just so we can compete with each other on how busy or successful we are. And then when that toxicity eats away at our true sense of self or our masked sense of self, then burnout is the only option. So let's bring this to life with a couple of examples. I've already given you one about the coach and the book. But firstly, right, we need to think of a new coach, right, who believes that burnout is stress. She's working with clients who are tired, overwhelmed, they're firefighting all day. So she starts coaching them on time management, productivity hacks, and saying no. But what's really happening is that her clients are losing themselves in toxic workplaces. They're hiding their true selves. They're contorting who they are to fit in. And no productivity hack is going to fix that. But when we start immediately in our coaching relationships or our leadership or our management or any of our relationships, if we start by trying to solve or fix the wrong problem, that's how that continues, right? We continue to keep coaching or trying to fix the wrong problem. And again, I saw this, I don't know how many times in my corporate career. I don't know how many times I saw it, when I started consulting back in 2014. But so many of us in workplaces, as consultants, as coaches, we're trying to solve the wrong problem in the first place because we don't spend the time on the exploration trying to fix the right thing. So if this coach that I've just given you the example of, right, is coaching on time management, productivity hacks, boundaries, and saying no, whilst, right, the truth is that individual is losing themselves in a toxic workplace, the coach is trying to solve the wrong problem. Let's give you another example, right? Here's the second coach, right? This is a picture a coach, right? We need to picture a coach who is running value sessions, right, with a client at burnout. Maybe this is you, maybe you've seen it. But we need to picture a coach who's running value sessions with clients at burnout. The client's nodding along, right? They're completing all of the exercises. They're telling you what you want to hear. They'll tick the boxes beautifully, but then in between sessions, nothing's changing. Why? Because internally, their sense of self has gone. Internally, their nervous system is completely fried, right? They're firefighting, they're dissociating, they're surviving. They'll do the work for you as their coach or their manager or their leader or their friend, but they won't do it for them. And if the coach doesn't know, right, if the coach does not know how to solve that, the coach doesn't know how to recognize burnout, they're going to keep pushing that person even harder. And that's when we risk accelerating the burnout. That's when we risk accelerating the collapse instead of helping with recovery. Final story for this morning, right? We should think then of, I'm saying stories, just examples, right? But we've then got the experienced coaches. They might see the patterns. They can see the patterns of what's happening, right? Okay, they've been coaching for long enough. Okay, this turns up, this comes up when clients are experiencing toxic workplaces, right? So it's a pattern that's seen over and over again. But what's missing for them is that they don't yet have the science, they don't understand the neuroscience, they don't sense that something deeper is happening with their clients, because again, they just think it's just stress. But without the real depth, without the understanding of the neuroscience, of burnout, of the identity loss, of the dysregulation, again, they are coaching blind spots. And even the most skilled coach, right? Many of the ones who have come to train with me on the 2-day burnout aware coach, some are amazing coach supervisors, people that have been coaching, coaches that have been coaching for years, far much longer than me. But even the most skilled coaches can accidentally keep a client stuck in burnout instead of helping them out of it. So this is why the burnout equation matters. How are we doing for time? We're okay. We're going to be finished on time, everybody. Well done. Right, this is why the burnout equation matters, because when toxicity strips away your sense of self, what's left is burnout. It's not about hours, it's about identity. And that's why recovery isn't just about rest, it's about rebuilding your sense of self. It's about helping clients come back to who they really are, but from understanding the neuroscience, understanding what's going on in the brain, knowing that if you are doing the values work or the identity work with your clients, that you're doing it from a place of safety because you understand what's going in the brain. So it's about helping clients come back to who they really are, not who the toxic system, not how the toxic system told them that they need to be. Nearly put my teeth into that one. Right? It's about helping clients come back to who they really are, not what the toxic system told them they had to be. So I'll leave you with this for this morning, right? Burnout doesn't come from working hard. It comes from losing yourself in these toxic spaces. Burnout is literally a nervous system shutdown. And if you're a coach that doesn't understand this, then you need to. Because if you've just realised that you might have been missing some of those deeper signs in your clients, firstly, you're not alone. Coach training doesn't teach us this stuff. Most coach training isn't talking to us about the neuroscience, what's going on within our nervous system, our central nervous system. It's not giving us any of this information. So you're not alone in this stuff. This is where most coaches are coming from. And this is why I created the Burnout Aware Coaching Starter Kit. If you do not have it yet, head to kellyswingler.com. Or let me be even better than that. Let me put the link in the chat for you. Let me be that organised one. Let me be that organised one. The Burnout Aware Starter Kit. Here you go, everybody. I've lost my chat now. Which window is my chat in? There we go. Now, some of you said you couldn't see that last week when I shared it afterwards. It hadn't come through in the comments. So if that's you again this morning, let me know and I will get that changed. That looks like it's only gone through on YouTube, but hopefully it's come through in the LinkedIn as well. So this is why I created the Burnout Aware Starter Kit. You're going to get some of the deeper breakdown. You're going to start to understand some of this stuff. Right? It's free, and I promise you that it will transform the way that you start to look at coaching. There we are. I'm on time again today. I'm going to give myself a big round of applause. But let me know in the comments or the chat what resonated most with you this morning. I'm going to be back with you next week for another conversation. I'll get that scheduled. That will be somewhere in your feeds today. But we will be live again next Monday. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. Go and have an amazing start of your week. I will be back with you again next Monday. Take care for now, everybody. Bye, bye, bye.